Welcome to the Trading Bell. My name is Malika Kazia. Thank you for making time for us. Today, I'm in this gorgeous space, the gardens of Saracen Media's offices. When we talk about Saracen Media, of course, they're one of those amazing success stories coming out of Kenya. The founders who got together and started this company in 2002 shot it to over R1 billion in turnover in just a few years once they began operation. And when we talk about advertising, marketing consultancy, Saracen is a leader for sure. But let's talk to them about what they see happening in the advertising space in Kenya. What is Saracen doing to expand, to grow, and how has digital media affected their operations and, of course, the environment in general when it comes to advertising in the country? I'm speaking to Lenny, the CEO of Saracen Media. But first, have a look at his profile. Lenny nurtures and mentors a team of highly knowledgeable people who are rooted in the culture of East Africa and have a passion for continuous learning and innovation. His 23 years experience has given him incisive insight into consumer behavior and media consumption trends. This is invaluable in crafting effective campaigns across the region. His passion for driving the industry forward has seen him chair the Advertising Practitioners Association in Kenya, as well as the Kenya Audience Research Foundation. Lenny has worked across most sub-Saharan African markets, earning the H.K. McCann Global Leadership Award for his passion in media along the way, as well as managing multi-country businesses for over 19 years. Lenny is a co-founder of Saracen OMG. Lenny, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you.
And you very recently joined the Ibuka program for the NSE, that's the Incubation and Acceleration Program. So I want to know more about that from you. But before we even get to that, I mean, Saracen Media set up in the early 2000s by 4 friends who decided that they're going to make a ripple in the advertising space. And you were just telling me before we began talking that, you know, the journey to even getting to that point of starting your own company took so much planning, took time, took saving up money. So take me back to that time. And when you began Saracen Media, what was it like and how has the journey been so far?
All right. Before we opened our doors, we had actually sat and planned and said that we would need to be able to live for at least 1 year without a salary at the lifestyle we were accustomed to. So we started saving up quite aggressively before that, before stepping out of employment, so as to ensure that we'll be able at least to live a comfortable lifestyle, so that even when you're trying to get business or servicing your clients, you're not in a bad mind space.
Yeah.
So that's something that we did before we stepped out of the business. And when we started off in 2002, October the 1st, I would say it was quite rough. A lot of clients that we used to service before would not make the leap of faith with us when we moved into our own company. Whereas before, when we were at McCann Erickson, we were leading the advertising for their companies and the advertising strategies and execution of those. But when you get out and get into your own company, it's a whole different kettle of fish. And you get to realize that pretty
quick.
Yeah, pretty harshly. Yeah.
Okay.
But we had one client at least who made that leap of faith and transition with us, who was Red Bull at the time. I know if you recall, there's a time when Red Bull was a very active advertiser in Kenya. And that client actually really helped us actually to start our journey and to get us started and to get us going.
Okay, so, you know, coming now, it's been about 17 years and you've decided that you're going to join the Ibuka program. You've become a part of it now with the NSE. What made you take that decision?
We looked around at companies in our space and we found that a lot of the companies, usually after the founders move on or the founders grow older, the companies tend to flounder and even die and cease to exist. Quite a number of companies that I can quote that I know, like offhand, which were really prominent, held very high positions in terms of like turnover in our industry, don't exist anymore. Because once the founders either disagreed or the founders moved on to something else, the companies died. So we felt that there's a need to corporatize, especially our governance, and to entrench proper governance systems and management systems into our company to ensure that the company is going to survive us, the founders, when we step aside from the business and let other people, younger people, run the business because, as we say, advertising is a young person's game. Yeah.
And speaking of it being a young person's game, I think recently we've seen a lot of competition in the advertising space from the digital revolution, because any business today can say, okay, you know what, I'm going to open a Facebook page, I'm going to open an Instagram page, and that's how I'm going to feed people out there the information about my products and services and get that market. So how has the competition been from that particular development for traditional advertising?
Traditional advertising in Kenya, at least I would say, is still holding its own, and if anything, is actually growing because there's a huge complexity now in terms of traditional media choices. When Kenya moved into the digital migration, the number of TV channels available to the average household jumped from 7 to about 36 now. The number of radio stations since then has also grown significantly to about 269 radio stations. So it is still a very complex space. And TV in Kenya, to be honest, is still a pretty young medium, because as at last count, maybe this census will change the figures, but as the last count that we had, only 51% of households in Kenya have a TV set. So it's still a pretty young medium. But that notwithstanding, we do see that the proliferation of the mobile phone is actually going to change quite a bit of media consumption, especially when people get better off in terms of higher incomes and therefore able to afford the data bundles that will allow consumption of content on a mobile phone. So that is definitely going to be a game changer, and we're starting to see it coming up. The biggest barrier, as I said, for the mobile phone taking off from traditional media is just that, the cost of data.
And so you've had to obviously adapt, I assume, some strategies when it came to marketing using social media as well, right? Because you still, even these traditional mediums, they have to now go hand in hand with the digital, whether we're talking TV, radio, there's always some sort of digital presence that even channels have to have and things like that.
Yes, true. What we did is we turned that around on its head and said, look, what we are focused on and the value that we provide to our clients is an understanding of their consumer. So we have to understand how that consumer is getting messages, is going to perceive advertising, and is going to receive advertising, either take it or block it or consume it. So we looked at all the channels, and we decided that now, because digital is also a major channel now, we've also acquired skills in how to utilize these channels to pass on our clients' messages, whether it's to sell a product or a service or to change a mindset. So we've incorporated that as a medium like any other medium. So traditional, non-traditional, they're all mediums to us now. So for example, when we talk about, if you say you do a commercial, previously it would be called a TV commercial. Now we just say it's video. It's a video commercial. It can air on TV. It can air on a digital out of home screen. It can air on YouTube. So we look at it as video, and we plan for it that way now. If it's audio, we look, it could be radio, it could be a podcast, and so on. So we've also changed the way we do things to accommodate and to take into account all these new mediums.
Okay, and when we talk about mobile subscription in the country, according to the Communication Authority recently, they said it's up to 49.5 million because of the multiple SIM cards that people can hold. So of course, mobile is one of the greatest ways that people consume content these days. And like you say, you know, you tailor one thing and you make sure that it can run across both traditional and digital platforms for it to get that outreach. Has the messaging format also had to evolve? Because when you're talking about capturing the attention of people, these days attention span is so short, it's reducing because people have so many options. So what kind of changes have you seen, or would you like to see actually be taken by people who are trying to market their products in Kenya today in order to accommodate that?
I would say it to be about customization. You customize your message for the platform you're putting it on, and that is becoming increasingly important. Even insofar as the older mediums, so say something like radio, nowadays putting a Swahili ad across all channels, especially like even vernacular channels, at some point it's going to rank, or it's not going to gel as well. Whereas you could express something in somebody's vernacular language, it should be a lot more expressive and will sell a lot better than a Swahili ad that cuts across all. So it's customization. Customized for the platform, customized for the language, customized for the context.